congratulations. How cool is it to be now with the head coach of a team that you took the first snap as quarterback for as an expansion franchise many moons ago?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how cool it is.
Yeah.
But it's up there. And then furthermore, it's really cool that the head coach of that team I played on is on the staff that I'm on now, and Dom Capers. And then, by the way, the city in which my wife Linda and I raised our children in for 13 years. We live in that city as well.
Yeah.
So and they're all there.
That would count as cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
no
that would
question.
count.
All that stuff pile on. That's awesome. And now you kind of jumped in, and you were out of work for all of 5 minutes, back at it. Because we've been friends for a long time. Give me a little bit about that process with the family jumping right back into the fiery furnace of the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, I think in many ways it was right. There's nothing fun about getting fired in the middle of the season, and so it was painful. It was it was like gutted you for about 2 weeks,
Sure.
And then it was like, okay, time to regroup, and let's see what's next. And it's been good. So it was kind of a blessing that it happened when it did, because it kind of gives you a chance to regroup, refresh, and you don't take anything for granted. I didn't know if I would get an opportunity or not, but got the chance to interview, in Carolina, and it just kind of walked into Mr. Tepper's house, and it felt like instant connection.
You referenced your coaching staff already. I got to tell you, it's like an all-star staff.
Right.
Whether it's guys who have played the game at some of your position coaches, like a Deuce Staley or somebody like that. But Jim Caldwell, getting him on a staff when some people didn't even think getting him on a staff to work in the NFL again was going to be a heavy lift. All of a sudden, he's like a senior assistant for you. It's like, whoa, how did that happen?
Right.
And then you've got some really good up-and-coming names at your coordinator spots in Evero and Thomas Brown, who you didn't previously work with, to my knowledge. So maybe just walk me through that process, because a lot of coaches, it feels comfortable to go with what you know, and that's why we often see guys hire people that they've worked with previously. How did that work, going through that and then making that call? I'm going to go with a guy I haven't worked with before because it feels right.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And in both cases, it was people saying to me, hey, Frank, I'm sure you got some great guys on your list, but you really need to talk to Jero. You really need to talk to Thomas. And so, these are people who you respect. So so you start that interview process, and then it didn't take long in both those cases. In first case with Jero, of course he was already interviewing for a bunch of head jobs. You could feel his presence, his strength. And, of course, the scheme that, I was hiring the man first, which he was a stud person and a leader. But then, obviously, the scheme that he brings to the table, the job they did last year in Denver, that whole Fangio scheme, but he puts his twist on it, was very excited about that. And then with Thomas, it was the same thing. With Thomas Brown, an elite offensive mind, getting to talk to him, you could see how well-versed he was in the run and the pass game. Been with McVay for the last number of years. I thought that was going to be a really good fit with what we've done, because it's different. And so we can kind of blend those two together in ways that we think make sense.
So you had to assemble this staff, and Brownie's right. You've gotten kudos from around the league about, wow, that's other head coaches are like, wow, it's an elite staff. How much and your relationship? You said you clicked with Mr. Tepper right out of the get-go, and ownership's important in these NFL clubs. How much input did he have? And he's a relatively new owner in the NFL. And this is probably his, first cycle through. What does he bring to the table? How did he help in that process? Because sometimes owners from other fields, other industries, really do bring a fresh set of eyes to a process.
Well, he brought a lot of money to the process.
Yeah, that sometimes happens too, right?
And that's what it takes to sometimes hire really good people. No,
right.
And I say that both seriously and kiddingly at the same time. He did kind of promise me in the process. He said, hey, you bring me the best coaches, and we'll do what it takes to get him on staff. And so he did back that up. But I also picked his brain along the process as well. He's obviously been an incredibly, successful person. He's got a lot of wisdom and experience. So, and him pushing me, is this the right guy for this position group? And so constantly bantering back and forth on some of those things was very helpful.
Quarterback is a big decision for your roster. I don't have to tell you that. You have free agents, and you have restricted free agent P.J. Walker, unrestricted free agent Sam Darnold. You also have the 9th pick in the draft, and people are already speculating, are the Panthers going to jump up to try to get the guy they want, not have the decision made for them by who comes off the board? Where are you guys in that decision-making process?
Yeah, we're looking at all those options because it'd be malpractice not to look at all those options. As it's been reported, we did meet with Derek Carr. We had a great meeting with him, and so feel very good about that meeting and that possibility. But you were also looking at the draft guys. Met with 5 of those guys today.
Right.
They were all impressive. They all got impressive tape. It's complicated though. You can't always get what you want or who you want, so you have to look at every option.
You've been through it when you were head coach here in Indianapolis. It was a big story that you didn't have the same guy year in, year out. You always kind of went through that. What did you learn from that? What have you relayed to your new organization about pluses and minuses of that? What to look for? How to handle this process? Because you went through it 5 years in a row.
It's a revolving door.
Right.
No.
So what do you bring to the process now that you've learned?
Yeah, let's get stability at quarterback.
Yeah.
We don't want a revolving door, every year. And so, listen, I think every coach would tell you the ideal option is to draft a guy that's going to be your quarterback for the next 15 years. But we don't live in the ideal world. You can't. There's not always a pathway to get the guy that you think can be that guy. So we think, like, for instance, just in Derek Carr's situation, he's not 38. He's 30. He's going to be 32. So,
right.
You look at quarterback lifetime, he's got a good 5 or 6 years in him. So that could be stability. We could draft a guy that could be stability. There's, other free agents will be out. Right now, Derek's the only one that we've talked with. But, at this point, we're keeping those options open.
I know you always kind of keep a secondary eye on what's going on up in Buffalo. Because you've said as much in the past. I imagine that continues.
Yes.
We deal with Bills myopia because Steve and I do this every day, at ground zero. I'm just always curious, what is the bird's eye view of the Bills as an organization right now and where they are? I figure that's a safe question to ask you since you're not playing the Bills next fall.
Well, obviously Sean McDermott has done an unbelievable job. Mr. Pagula, has been a great owner up there and really brought a lot to the city. But then at the end of the day, it's that team, it's that roster, and it's most importantly that quarterback,
Right.
Josh Allen. I mean, he's just a unique player, a unique leader. So it's pretty exciting. As a former Buffalo Bill who does, especially now that I'm in the NFC, now I can root even harder for the Bills. But, yeah, I'm excited about what's going on up there.
So as you start to take the reins of the Carolina Panthers, certainly you've got a different agenda because you're 2 months into the job or whatever it is, a few weeks into the job, and you've got to get ready for a season, an offseason, a draft. Where do you start with that priority list? Is it getting acclimated to the building and getting your people in place and getting the right people rather than – trying to find more people to hire, the players, all that kind of stuff? Well, I mean, where's your priority list now as opposed to, in respect to the team, your team, the new players you're getting, the free agents you're looking at, the draft you're looking at?
Yeah, the priority is get the staff hired, right? Evaluate your own roster. Evaluate the free agents because that's the next thing that comes up. Evaluate the college guys. While that's going on, now that you got your staff, get the playbooks ready.
Right.
Get your installs ready. Okay, the guys are going to be here April 10th. So, they're going to walk in. It's got to all be laid out. The whole thing has to be mapped out. So that's the agenda right now.
Yeah.
And then you are in a pretty unique circumstance as far as the NFC South is concerned, Frank, because you've got teams that in many cases are in a similar situation to you. They're trying to build their rosters up into contender status again. The Bucs are kind of doing a little bit of a tear down, not a complete tear down, but they're going to have a quarterback change, as we know. The quarterback in Atlanta, is it Mariota? Are they going young? Are they going to draft somebody? And you could say the same thing about your team, obviously, and then the Saints, who are a little undecided at quarterback as well. So how does that affect your view from a division perspective as to what you're walking into there in the NFC South?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you look at it and say, hey, the NFC South is a good division to be in. right? And that's true. But I look at it and I say to myself, hey, we're coming into this team. You know, we had, you know, our record was 6-11, you know, last year. But, like, we're really optimistic that we can get this thing turned around fast. Well, what do you think those other teams are thinking? Right. Every team's thinking the same
it
thing.
It seems wide open, though. Like,
you know, and
right.
yeah, but so every year you see it. There's going to be a team that, you know, that comes out of the blue and is, you know, making noise. And so we want to be one of those teams.
Right.
We want to be one of those teams. I'm sure so do those other teams in our division. But I am excited about the opportunity to take nothing for granted, build it one piece at a time, and see how it plays out.
And all those teams kind of have a similar problem. Quarterback is a question mark for most of them. And it's an arms race.
It is an arms race. And we all know the importance of that position. We got to get that decision right. And so that's what we're working on.
Scott Fitterer is your GM. How have the early goings on with him gone in terms of obviously getting on the same page as to how to build this thing?
It's been outstanding. You know, Scott he's great to work with. He's you know, got an elite mind. I mean, he's super smart, great team player. You know, real humble but both and confident guy, a great teammate. You know, it's been really good. It's been really good between the two of us, constantly going back and forth about these quarterbacks, about the roster, you know, about the whole deal. And then add Mr. Tepper's wisdom into all that. It's been a good dynamic.
It's been. I know there's a lot of people in Western New York that are pulling for the Carolina Panthers a little harder now that Frank's there. and I knew it. I said it immediately when you were in the running for that job. I said, hey, you know what? He threw the first touchdown pass to that and.
To Pete Metzler.
Pete Metzler texted me and said, "Don't forget who he threw it to," right? And so, but I thought it is that there's a little bit of symmetry to it. There's a lot of people pulling for you. Congratulations! We couldn't be happier, and we will be cheering for the Panthers a little bit up there in Buffalo.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, that's Frank Reich, head coach of the Carolina Panthers.